Hello everyone, and welcome to a new episode on Stories Lost. If you've followed this channel over time, you might have guessed that it tries to cover the unexplained from multiple angles, exploring stories from different countries, and delving into a wide range of phenomena. That's exactly what we aim to do in today's episode. This extraordinary report bears all the hallmark signs of a ghost story, but is it really? We'll let you be the judge. This episode covers the chilling encounter at Talavera la Real, where Spanish soldiers came face to face with a towering, luminous figure that appeared and vanished in the blink of an eye. While this ghostly apparition might seem like something out of a Halloween nightmare, it should also serve as a reminder that some mysteries linger just beyond the veil of our understanding, defying explanation, but demanding our attention. We believe that the great astronomer, Johann Kepler, was right when he said, "Only resistance awakens slumbering forces. The works of foolishness perish. They must further what they seem to hinder. But that which comes from the fountainhead is eternal." All honest investigation should mean a step forward in knowledge. Consequently, new discoveries, such as the mysterious events at Talavera la Real, should not be judged solely by their perceived probability or improbability. While we may not yet fully comprehend the nature of what the Spanish soldiers witnessed, a towering luminous figure that appeared and vanished in an instant, this does not place the event in the realm of miracles. Rather, it belongs to a category of occurrences that seem to happen under certain conditions, though their causes and laws remain unknown. Such revelations do not disrupt the classical foundations of science. Instead, we should assume that they follow their own set of yet-to-be-understood principles and conditions. So, time to light your lanterns, steady your nerves, and join us as we step into the darkness. This case was investigated by Portuguese ufology delegate Joaquim Fernandes, and penned by Juan José Benitez in Uranus magazine number 22, 1978. Juan suggests in his article that this particular case offers a rare insight into one of the multiple aspects of the UFO phenomenon, especially within the range of appearances of unusual beings. These are beings that appear and disappear suddenly, like an image fading from a television or movie screen. The events took place on the morning of November 12, 1976, at the Talavera la Real military airbase in Spain. When the witnesses, 3 Spanish soldiers, met up with the investigator, they had just completed their military service and had recently left the base. This is why the case was not made public sooner. However, the investigation was considered to have been conducted under the best possible conditions. It was around 1:45 a.m. when José María Trejo and Juan Carrizosa were on guard duty. They were both in the fuel storage sector of the base, which is located a few kilometers from the city of Badajoz. We were on reinforcement for the guard, each in his sentry box. Suddenly, while we were about 60 meters apart, we heard strange noises. These sounded like radio interference. Suddenly, in the middle of the darkness, the noise changed into a kind of high-pitched, piercing whistling sound that hurt our ears. At first surprised, we began to worry, as this could not have come from anything familiar on the base. Our post was in the fuel storage area, and we feared it might be an attempt at sabotage. This sound remained audible for about 5 minutes. Then there was silence again. "Did you hear that?" Trejo shouted to his companion. Juan had indeed heard the same phenomenon, and they wondered what it could be. The source of this strange noise seemed to have moved closer to José Trejo's sentry box. He asked his companion to come closer, and together they decided to inspect the area. Both men, armed with automatic rifles, also carried additional ammunition with them. After 5 minutes of silence, the 2 soldiers continued. The high-pitched sound returned. We were on the verge of panic because this very sharp sound almost made us feel like our eardrums were going to burst. This went on for about 5 minutes. Then silence returned. And at that moment, we observed a curious glow in the sky. It looked like a luminous rod and was at a great height, directly above us. But after 15 to 20 seconds, this bright light disappeared, leaving us very surprised. A few moments later, Corporal Jose Hidalgo, accompanied by a German shepherd dog, came to ask if they had also seen the light. Together, they discussed the event, but remained puzzled by its strangeness. Near the 2 sentry boxes was a small house, occupied by sentries and a corporal. Deciding to report their observations, they woke them up and informed the corporal on duty of this luminous anomaly and the strange noises. They then decided to inspect the area further. With weapons in hand, Jose Trejo, Juan Carrizosa, and Corporal Jose Hidalgo headed towards the fuel reserves. The darkness was, at that moment, total. We walked about 300 meters in the direction of Badajoz, following the adobe wall that surrounds the base and separates it from the main road. We walked in silence, and the dog handler thought that perhaps someone had entered the camp. The dog, on the other hand, seemed calm, which reassured us because it was very well trained and sensitive. But suddenly, as we reached a sentry box under construction, a loud noise was heard. Surprised by this commotion, we stopped, cocked our rifles, and tried to see what was happening. At that moment, we noticed that the noise was coming from a specific point, when all of a sudden, we had the impression that something was collapsing. Eucalyptus branches, which were near us, seemed to be hit by something as they rustled. The shepherd dog was released. It darted forward into the darkness, towards the point where the sound of the branches had come from. The soldiers, gripping their weapons, thought it was going to bark, but it didn't. After a few moments, the animal returned to them in a strange way, staggering as if it were sick or frightened by something or someone. We tried to figure out what was happening in that area. 4 or 5 times the dog came back to us, always in the same manner, as if it were suffering. It was whining. Eventually, the animal returned to the 3 men and began to circle around them. This behavior, the soldiers explained, is one of the defense techniques it was taught. When there is a danger that could threaten the sentries, the dogs circle around them without stopping, thus warning their master and offering some protection. This behavior from the dog alarmed the 3 soldiers, who decided to take action. We shouted out loud several times, but nothing responded. However, the dog, still on alert, continued to growl, circling around us even faster. We thought it must be some kind of sabotage. After checking our weapons, we were ready to defend ourselves. I distinctly felt a presence, continued Jose Maria Trejo. It was like the feeling that someone was watching us from behind. Glancing sideways, I saw behind me on my left a spherical light. Turning quickly, I found myself in front of something absolutely extraordinary, something I had never seen before. It was a human-like form, or at least, it seemed so. It was very tall, nearly 3 meters high. We were about 10 meters away from this impressive thing. It was all made of light, a light green comparable to that of phosphorus at night. The strangest part was that this luminous form appeared to be made up of small points. Its outline consisted of more intense points. The head was small and seemed covered by some sort of helmet. The body was spindle-shaped and apparently without legs. The arms were crossed, but the hands didn't seem clearly defined. The soldier, Jose Maria Trejo, the first to see this creature, was paralyzed with surprise, gripped by terror. I don't know how long it took until I regained my senses, maybe 10 to 15 seconds. I was determined to use my weapon, but I couldn't, finding myself completely unable to move. I was overcome with a general weakness. However, I could see and hear perfectly, even though I began to collapse. Before falling to the ground, I had just enough time to shout to my companions to get down. I couldn't say anything more. Still conscious and with my face against the ground, my vision began to fade, as if darkness was slowly falling. I also saw that enormous luminous thing. Without further hesitation, the other 2 soldiers opened fire, almost simultaneously and instinctively. We fired like mad, 40 to 50 shots, aiming at the gigantic being. As we fired, the thing became brighter, like the flash of a camera. Suddenly, it disappeared on the spot in a manner very similar to a television screen image fading when turned off. As the two soldiers then rushed to help their comrade Trejo, a sound was heard again. It was the same as that heard a few minutes earlier, before the appearance of the being. It came from the same area, near the eucalyptus trees. This time it lasted 10 to 15 seconds, then silence returned for good. During the investigation, Trejo specified the exact circumstances in which he felt his weakness. "It's curious," he said. "It was at the precise moment I was about to pull the trigger of my weapon that I suddenly felt weak. Then, my companions helped me up, and I gradually recovered from all those emotions. However, my chest hurt, which seemed strange to me because when I fell to the ground, I wasn't unsupported and couldn't have hurt myself with my weapon. The pain faded after 15 to 20 minutes. The alarm had, of course, been raised because the sound of our gunfire had woken everyone up. At daybreak, about 50 soldiers under the command of an officer meticulously inspected the area where the events had taken place. On site, they realized an inexplicable fact. They couldn't find a single shell casing from the 50 bullets that were fired. And more strangely, no bullet impacts were detected in the adobe wall. It should be noted that the wall was, during the incident, right behind the large human form. Logically, some projectiles should have hit it. Consequently, the armed forces experts made sure to check whether the weapons had indeed been used. The soldiers, for their part, claimed that the shots were aimed at mid-height of the being, so well below the top of the wall. A few days after the incident, Jose Maria Trejo, upon entering the mess hall of the base, suddenly felt his vision weaken. He eventually lost his sight completely and was taken to the infirmary by his comrades. For a good quarter of an hour, I blanked out. I had lost all consciousness. They left me in the infirmary for the whole day. A few days later, I was transferred to the hospital in Badajoz, where I stayed for a week and a half. I underwent numerous medical examinations, blood tests, urine tests, and x-rays. However, nothing abnormal was detected. I felt perfectly fine. But just 2 days after being discharged from the hospital, while I was in a car with my fiancé, the phenomenon occurred again and my vision weakened. I asked my fiancé to let me out of the car, and I remained totally blind for a good quarter of an hour. Nearly 15 days after the event on November 12th, Jose Maria Trejo suffered his third episode of blindness and was transferred to Madrid to the military hospital of the Spanish Air Force. For a month, he was kept under medical observation and underwent multiple examinations and tests. Following these procedures, the doctors concluded only that Jose Maria had suffered from a nervous shock. When Juan Jose Benitez questioned the soldiers about the nature of the luminous phenomenon they had fired upon, they responded that they could not provide any logical explanations. The apparition resembled a human being, but was of very large size. In this case, should we consider the human form described by the soldiers as an occupant of a UFO? What precise connection could exist between this being and the subsequent observation of the luminous rod described by the witnesses? If we are to remain convinced that the phenomenon reported by the three soldiers is entirely objective in nature, we may, however, ponder the materiality of its solidity, as the three protagonists described it as having disappeared on the spot in the manner of a television screen image being turned off. A big question mark still hangs over the fact that no projectile fired in the direction of the apparition was ever found. How is this possible, especially considering that an adobe wall was located immediately behind the spot where the enigmatic figure appeared? Given the strange nature of this incident, it's worth noting that similar details have been reported in other cases, such as the appearance of generally human-like forms with a completely immaterial quality, often emitting an intense luminous radiation. For further reference, there is a case reported in Uranos, issue number 20. Juan Jose Benitez notes that all of this suggests that this case and others like it contain many interesting elements that warrant further study and should be considered with the utmost interest. The events at Talavera la Real are to this day still shrouded in mystery. The question is whether there are more answers out there. Are normal phenomena the bottom of the barrel, scraped clean of all insights? Or is the cup still overflowing with secrets yet to be revealed? Perhaps we should consider it a scientific sin to quickly discount the existence of abnormal phenomena, to assume fraud, self-deception, and superstition without deeper investigation. Perhaps we should entertain our curiosity a little bit longer. Tell us what you think. We are immensely proud and happy to receive your feedback, good or bad. Your support and thoughts continue to inspire us as we create each new episode. Want to support our channel? Like and subscribe. You can also go to buymecoffee.com/storieslost. This week, we would once again like to thank RRR Group for the support.